Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nugentino Cinema. And I'm joined today again by Kay. Welcome back. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, no problem. And today, I think it was your pick for our review this time. So it was the American Astronaut.
hmm
I think it's from 2001. I'm blanking on the director's name. I think maybe it was Cory McAbee or something like that. Yeah,
yes, Cory McAbee, and he's pretty essential since he did like everything. He had a hand in
yeah.
everything.
It kind of has that feel. Not like I think he does pretty well, but he also plays the main character, I believe. Um, I think he did good with that. But how did you first come across this movie?
Ever since I suggested that we should watch it, I've been racking my brain to try to remember how I heard about this film, and I can't remember. I first saw it in 2015, so you'll have to cut me a bit of slack for starters. It's been a long time. And the
Mhm.
last time I watched it was in 2017, so this was a nice one for me to revisit. I can only imagine that one of my film buddies at the time suggested it, but it's lost to the annals of time. I'll never know.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really interesting movie. One thing I read is that it was like some sort of theater. There was like a theater version of it at one point, like a stage show. I think that could have been really cool to see. But what are your general thoughts on the movie?
Well, I think it's terrific. It was, I believe, written by Cory McAbee, but he directed it, and it's a musical, like a space space cowboy musical, and his band did the music for it as well. So he really was like every step, or for the most part, like in big swaths, was like very involved in the making of the film. And I think that, to have such a personal project that way and put so much of like your vision and literally put yourself in the film like that, I have a lot of respect for it, and I think he did really well. It's such a fun little like easy breezy vibe piece, but it's super unique at the same time. And I just feel like it's really creatively done with what they had to work with. um, and even like, I was a little bit nervous after I recommended it because it had been so long since I'd seen it, and I was like, oh no, what if it doesn't hold up? But it really did for me, and I enjoyed it as much as I did the last time I saw it, so it has that going for it as well.
Yeah, for sure. And one, I think the music is probably my favorite part of the movie. It's cool that it's his band that did it. Even just like little things like when he's walking, or when one of the characters is walking to the bar, and there's a like spacewalk scene, and there's this like awesome guitar like playing over it. And I assume the movie was done for like a low budget, but I think they did really well, especially with like that spacewalking scene. I mean, there's something about like it's like on a dark set, so you can
Yeah.
just have somebody kind of like hopping through a landscape, and you can imagine, they're in space. I think that stuff is really well done. But yeah, the music is fantastic, I think, and especially like, and soon after that spacewalk scene, he goes into the bar. And I thought like the dot or whatever you would call it when he's like they're doing like the spacewalk thing, and he has to like like switch doors was really well done too. But then when they go in the bathroom, or that guy goes in the bathroom, and there's the "Hey Boy" song. I love that. That's my favorite song in the whole movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that really stuck with me the first time I watched it too. I think they have like different clips of the songs on YouTube, and I remember sending that one to my friends and being like, "Isn't this like so cool?" Especially in the context of the film where it's like these like goons, these henchmen delivering a message of like, "Hey, watch your back," and they're doing it in
Mhm.
song. It really sets up like how campy the film is, but it's still like when it matters takes itself seriously, like with those effects and like even with the story. It's a pretty fun, engaging story, even though it's like it's relatively simple. It's like, your standard kind of sci-fi, I don't know, noir sort of western feel. I don't know why I said noir,
Yeah,
but yeah,
I can see Nora a little bit.
yeah, a little bit. But yeah, it's not incredibly unique in terms of story, but it still manages to do a lot and stick with you.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a little bit of a Coen Brothers vibe, like Hudsucker Proxy in that scene in the bathroom, to me at least. Another musical scene that I loved is the dance competition where they're like, they're singing that song and the guitars are really good. And the two guys go up there and like do the dance, and I thought that was awesome too.
Yeah, I mean, there's like three main parts of the film, and I think that first part is really strong. It maybe is like a little bit overlong at certain moments where it could have been trimmed up, but then when you think about like, maybe they left a little bit into milk to that feature length runtime, which it's a pretty tight film overall, and it doesn't drag too much, but that first segment in the bar, it does so much, and it's like, I don't know, it's like its own composed little short film in a way, because you get the
Yeah.
whole like dance competition, and there's like the gosh, I'm getting carried away, but yeah, just even the opening sequence of him entering the bar, like you said, and the spacewalk in, and then like the decompression going into the bar, and the whole bit with the cat, like it just does so much before you even get to see like him in space in his spaceship. And the way that they design all the sets and chose to shoot the film too works really well, because like you said, you can tell it was made on a low budget, but they kind of like use it to their advantage a little bit to give it this like grimy, worn and aesthetic that fits the overall tone of the film. So it doesn't feel like you're missing out on anything. Like it feels like if they made this on a huge budget, like it would still have a relatively same, I don't know, like rough aesthetic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. One thing it reminded me of also is Eraserhead, just the black and white,
Yeah.
the low budget, but like trying to do like special effects and stuff like that reminded me of Eraserhead. And yeah, that was really
Yeah.
good.
And there's still so much creativity with it. And I feel like moments that stand out to me are when it has like the white background and the silhouette of the cowboy like doing different bits. It has it in the opening credits, but they reprise it a couple
Mhm.
times throughout the film. So it's just like even though they're constrained financially in what they're able to do, like in terms of creativity, it still excels. And I think that they use a lot of different styles and approaches to keeping the film very visually engaging, even while it's like this black and white, super grainy thing. Another great example is like when they do the hand painted stuff. It reminds me of like old sci-fi books, it kind of
Yeah.
has like that quality to the painting. And it works so well. Like you can tell like they just didn't have the ability to do special effects there. So they did these kind of like painting stills, but it works
I
so
love
well.
that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it adds
Yeah.
such a unique quality to the film.
Yeah, I like stills used in movies. There's a couple experimental films I've used or I've seen that like use stills, and I think that's a really interesting vibe that you can bring into the middle of a movie like this. Like just do it for like a couple of scenes. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then having the music over top, it's just kind of this like experimental, like wailing, turbulent kind of thing. It's great. It reminds me a lot of Cowboy Bebop, which came out a little bit before, where it has this like cool guy, space cowboy, almost like a touch of steampunk aesthetic. And it just really fits this kind of like, I don't know, like it did come out 2001. It has that grunge element, and it feels that kind of like chip on his shoulder, cool guy in
Mhm.
space. Like it's so great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really good. But the only time I really felt the budget in a negative way was, I think at the end. And if you're saying like you can, it's kind of like in different segments. I would say the last segment was my least favorite. And I think when they go to the Venus or the women's planet, I think the choice of the location there, it seems to kind of just be like a nondescript like forest.
Yeah.
And for some reason, like the way they shot it, I just thought they could have picked a better location, and like it felt like at that point I could sense, or I felt like it reminded me of other like kind of like late '90s low budget movies I'd seen. And I think if they just picked a location with like, I don't know, some more like natural beauty, it would have been a lot better.
It's intermission time, folks.
I completely agree. It's like they could have chosen literally any better location, like a rose garden or like a park, but they
Yeah.
chose this like field, like you said, in the middle of kind of nowhere, and it's surrounded by all of these dead trees, and then there's like a body of water in the background, but they don't really take advantage of that either, and it's just like they have this kind of like trellis and throne for the one main like matriarch gal, but yeah, it just feels like a total waste, especially when the women are in these like really beautiful like period gowns, you know, with like fans and everything, and then they're just in a field. It's
Yeah.
so random.
Yeah, it reminded me of, like, really low budget filmmaking because I mean, like, even, like, I remember making short films, and I would always be like, "Let's just go shoot in this empty field," because, like, it just seemed like an easy place to, shoot stuff. You have all this wide open space, but you're not really thinking about the look of it. But, I mean, they think about the I'm sure they thought about the look in so many other scenes because I mean, the movie looks great throughout. It's just that one sequence I think could have been better, but, um, yeah.
Yeah, they use the black and white to kind of mask a lot. Like I was thinking about that, like in the middle segment when they're in the barn in space, and like you don't ever really see anything. Like there's some wrestling and hay or whatever, but I feel like they kind of like um, because of the lower budget, don't have a lot of locations, and probably like you said, just kind of use what they have to make do. And the result of part of that is like, yeah, some places they can't really do as much to put a band-aid on it or like make it look a little bit better. And so in order to make it look like an alien planet, they're just like,
Mhm.
well, let's just make it work. But
Yeah.
yeah, in some moments they really do, it really does work well for them. Like the bar scene looked really good. Um, the amphitheater or like auditorium that they use for part of it is really good. The Jupiter planet. But yeah, I guess we're getting a little carried away with details and haven't really talked about much of what happens in the film. And it does kind of have these three different segments to it, but it has a nice overall arch. And yeah, it's pretty standard fare, but it's really enjoyable and super watchable. So what did you think of the story of the film?
I mean, this is a little embarrassing. I don't know if I want to admit it, but I didn't like. I had a hard time following everything that was going on in the movie. I don't know why.
That's fair.
um, yeah. I know the guy was being chased by this professor who's like killing everybody he comes in contact with. Spoiler alert. But yeah, but I thought that was really well done when he would had this like taser or laser gun or whatever, and whenever he would shoot people, they would turn into ash or these like
Mhm.
piles of sand. It looked more like sand than ash, honestly. But I
Yeah,
thought
like
that was
moon
like pretty
sand.
effective and yeah, and like disturbing. Um, Especially when they have that scene with the one guy who's holding up the suitcase with the woman that he can grow apparently, and there's this whole audience of people, and then the professor ends up coming in and like shooting everybody, and he's just standing in like a room full of piles of ash or sand. And you see the same thing happens in the bar. You see like just different piles of sand that he just he's killed every single person in the room. So that stuff I thought was effective.
Yeah, so he has like a disintegration gun or something. And yeah, so it like turns people into ash. It does look like moon sand though, especially in the beginning when he zaps somebody and then like is like rolling in it. You can kind of
Yeah, and he's
see
like
him.
holding it, and yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of gnarly. I love his character. It's they don't really explain everything, and it kind of has that like typical like Western, we've been rivals for years kind of thing. Like it's old bad blood, and so it kind of plays into that a bit, where it's like this professor needs to forgive this guy, or I forget if it's the other way around, in order to kill him because he only kills people if he doesn't have any reason to kill them. But if he has a reason to kill them, he can't do it. And he wants to kill the main character, so he needs to track him down and forgive him so that he doesn't have a reason to kill him and can kill
yeah.
him.
I
And
didn't
so
quite
it's really
understand. I
silly.
was trying to understand the background,
Yeah.
like why, like what happened, but I don't think they ever fully explained it.
Yeah, I just feel like that bit is so funny. Like that's their whole relationship, and it's just like, okay, make it work.
Well, he's always going on about how it's his birthday, and
Yeah, he's just
I
crazy.
like the one part when he's like, "I'm 96 years old," and he's like, "Why don't you believe me?" or like whatever. I like that one little dialogue back and forth when he's like talking to him on the phone. Um, but yeah, I didn't fully understand everything that was like the motivation for that, but I don't know if that's intentional. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like a little bit Firefly too in a way because the main character works as like a delivery guy basically. Like it starts with him delivering this cat to a bar. Um, and then the bartender gives him this case, and in the case, it's cloning material that's in the process of creating a real live girl. There are like no women in this segment of the universe, so it's a big deal. Like the other main character is this boy who is what, like 15 or 16, and he's famous and is employed just as a guy who has seen a woman's breast. And every night he goes out in front of a crowd of men and just says, "It was round and soft," and everybody claps. And it's so funny. But yeah, so he works as like this delivery guy, and he's given this girl, and he basically, it becomes a series of trades. So like it's basically following him in his normal routine as he's performing these trades, trying to make a quick buck while he's being chased down for murder. So yeah, there's not really any like depth to it necessarily, or like strong metaphorical significance. It's just a
I
fun
guess maybe that was a
space
mistake of mine because I was like, it seems artistic in so many ways. So I'm like, I mean, just in the visually. So I was like maybe looking for deeper meanings when they maybe weren't there. But yeah.
I mean, I think it does a lot of stuff with like, obviously it kind of is a little heavy-handed in terms of like father relationships. It does a lot with that.
Yeah.
I can't really speak to that too much, but there was like even just like his alarm in the morning is like, "What did your father teach you? What did
That's
your
pretty
father
funny.
teach you?" And he's like,
Yeah.
"To kill the sunflower." And so there's like all of these things that they never really explain, but it still kind of adds to the world building in this really nice way. Same with the music too, where like song is really significant in their culture, and so there's like all of these songbooks and they sing together. um so anyway, I was getting sidetracked though. So I feel like there is like some significance in terms of like father son relationships, but I don't
Mhm.
feel like it was necessarily trying to say a whole lot, or if it was, I just missed it, I guess.
Well, a lot of the stuff with the women and the women's planet and women all being on this specific planet and like men have like never seen women on this other planet. Like I didn't know if there was like a deeper meaning to that, but because I kind of felt like there was, but I couldn't, totally put something together in my mind. But yeah,
Yeah, I feel like that was a bit more of just like a cheeky play on like women are from Venus, men are from Mars, but
yeah,
here it's like women are from Venus and men are from Jupiter. And so it's like the women in the film, there's not really any women in the film except for at the end, and
until
then
the
they're
end. But
just
they're just
like in their own kind of compound, and they've figured out how to procreate without men, but they need men every few generations so that they don't become too inbred basically. So yeah, the women are kind of slipped in at the end, but it's mostly just like guys in space singing songs. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel like there was too much there. It was more just a means of furthering the plot. I don't know. I don't feel like it was necessarily slighting women in any way. It just kind of wasn't really about that, which is fine sometimes, you know? There was a place, part of the story. I don't know. It's just like a, what's the movie? It's just like a buddy movie, kind of like a
Mhm.
guy's buddy movie. Well, it's great.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely see that. I thought it was good to see some like there's some character actors that I thought I've seen in other things, and I thought it was interesting to see them here. Because for the most part, it's like a cast of people I've never heard. Like just I'm assuming non actors, maybe not non
Yeah.
actors, but people haven't acted in many things. But they did have Peter McRobbie, and he plays the guy who stands on the stage with the briefcase, the guy with the glasses, the older guy.
Hmm.
And he's an Inherent Vice He has a good little part in that. He's in The Visit. M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit.
Oh,
He plays
okay.
the grandpa in that. So he's in a lot of stuff. He pops up in tons of stuff here and there. And he's actually somebody who I always like to see in different movies. And they also have James Ransone, he plays that guy at the end who's in that weird costume. And he like smells terrible.
Oh,
They like discover him on like some like planet or something. Um, yeah, he plays that guy. He's a weird like chameleon kind of actor because he always comes off different in everything I've seen him in. But he's in Kin Park, Larry Clark's movie Kin Park, the director of Kids. His role in that is very disturbing. But he's also he's in the It movies. I forget which. I think it's It Chapter 2 because he plays the adult version of one of the characters. Um, and then recently he was in The Black Phone. He played Ethan Hawke's brother.
oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah. So I mean, he's somebody who I find interesting. So I thought it was good or cool that there were some people like that in there, because for the most part, it wasn't anybody I'd heard of before.
Yeah, this movie's pretty it's flown under the radar a lot too. Not a lot of people talk about it, and like I said, I don't even remember how I heard about it. It's I remember it was nominated for something at Sundance, I think like one of the jury prize awards. So it got a little bit of recognition when it first came out. And like you said, it's had like a few like lower, or not lower, but like smaller names in it.
Mhm.
But yeah, it kind of has like a little bit of a cult following, but like very small cult. The few people I know who have seen this movie really enjoy it. But for the most part, yeah, it's kind of just an underground gem. I think I was even chatting with you before we started this discussion, and I was like, I don't even think like there's a lot of content about this. Like I couldn't find really any articles about it or interviews with the director or anything. That may just be because of when it came out. It's been such a long time, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's cool to see that some people are still working away. But I don't know that this director's really done anything else since this.
Yeah, I was gonna look that up, but I didn't end up looking up his filmography. I need to do that, but I didn't see any recognizable production companies or anything. Like it seemed
Yeah.
like it was pretty much like totally independently produced, other than the fact that it was associated with Sundance. I did see at the end it said it was like produced through the Sundance Institute, which I know that Sundance Institute like workshops scripts and like would help like young filmmakers make movies. Interestingly, I just rewatched Hard Eight, which is Paul Thomas Anderson's first movie, and that was another movie that was produced through the Sundance Institute. But yeah, so there's some good stuff that's come out through there.
Yeah, you can definitely get the feeling that this was like a passion project. So I could see that it would be something that was like spent a lot of, he spent a lot of time on it, and it feels like really clean and tight. So workshopping I'm sure is a part of that. Yeah, I
Mhm.
just feel like it's a great film, and I feel like it's the kind of film that would be really encouraging for like young filmmakers too, where it's like even if you don't have a lot of resources, and you're kind of just doing it all yourself, you can still accomplish something really significant that has like appeal for a wide audience and finds its niche. Like there's not a lot of bells and whistles on this, but it's the kind of thing that sticks with you. At least it has for me. And it's the kind of film that I like find myself telling people about. So yeah, I feel like it's in that really nice sweet spot where it's like high level student filmmaking kind of, where it's like really
Yeah.
it could break into something more. And I'm surprised that, I haven't seen more from this director. Like perhaps they have gone on to do more, but I haven't heard about it, I guess is what I'm saying. So um I don't know, like even if you just make one, it can still matter.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think the music was the standout thing of the movie and the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Um, some of that is just so great. Um, yeah, it reminds me of some other movies that have like heavy band influences, like or like musical influences, like I don't know, like something like Scott Pilgrim. It's not like Scott Pilgrim, but just some of the music, and some like bombastic music scenes.
Yeah, and what's so unique about this one too is the way that it does incorporate music. Like I kind of touched on it before, but it ties music into the world building and kind of creates this whole culture. Like the concept is that it was, I think, like the early 1800s or something that humans discovered space flight. And so this is kind of an alternate reality where it's like roughnecks, prospectors type, like, seedy types just out in bars in space trying to make a quick buck. And so it kind of builds this like, oh, it almost makes me think of like sea shanties type thing where like there's this very strong musical culture. And so there's songbooks and stuff. And there's a few different times where it's just like guys like clapping or stomping to make their beat and then singing these songs together. Or the Rio Yeti part where one guy's like, no, 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 and the other guy's like, Rio Yeti, Rio Yeti. So it's like the way that they incorporate music is not just, it's not just these like fully composed songs. It's just like sometimes somebody like singing a snippet or something or whatever. And so it really makes it feel super rich and super lived in and really fleshed out as compared to like some other sci-fi that coasts on, typical plot points the way that it does, but this one brings just a little something extra, like its own unique flavor to it.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely very unique, and yeah, it was a good watch. I think that's pretty much all
Yeah.
I had to say about it. I mean, did you have any other thoughts?
Um, Not a ton. I thought a lot of the character design was really fun and interesting as well. Like the main character, you kind of have this like greaser type, but then there's like the middle segment where they stop into the barn in space, and there's like the guy who oh, is it atrophied where they like lost all of the muscle mass in their bodies and it like all went to their heads or something? So it has this kind of
Yeah,
like weird, huge cranium design with these goggles. And the kid in the rubber suit is great. And then even the kid, I think he's only ever called in the movie the boy who saw a woman's breast. I'm pretty sure that's his name
yeah,
in the movie. But yeah, like he has this cool like Apollo like
yeah,
winged headset thing. So I just feel like at every opportunity they really took steps to create something creative and unique and that had voice and vision. And I think, yeah, like the music, the costume design, the way they shot it, even a lot of the editing is really cool. Like we kind of touched on the painting transitions and like how it has these kind of like still drawings, but like the way that's kind of incorporated in is great. So I feel like it's just a really well composed film for what it had to work with, and I hope more people watch it. It's super breezy, it's super fun, and yeah, I think it deserves more attention. So I think that's the last I had to say about it.
well, yeah. Thank you for introducing it to me because it was
Of
I hadn't even heard
course.
of it, so it was a good watch
Yeah,
for
let's
sure.
spread the word.
Yeah, it's for so just for a final thought, I guess I'll give my rating, which would be a 3.5 out of 5, and that could go up or that could go up on a rewatch, but I definitely enjoyed it for sure.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I had this, like I said, the last time I watched this was in 2017, which feels like a long time ago. And I had it at 5 stars then. Now, having seen more stuff, I think I would honestly bump it down a little bit just because, as I touched on, like there were moments where I felt like it could have been just a little bit tighter. I understand why it was made that way, but like I just feel like, it could have been a little bit better. So I think I'm gonna go down to like a solid 4, and that might fluctuate, but for right now, I feel like a 4 is comfortable.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, thanks again for being here. I think it was a
of
good
course.
review, and yeah, I'll see you all next time. Bye.